you here, and how are you finding our city?
It's good to be here. It's known as a global city, and it's proven itself out as such. I'm very impressed.
Good, good. It's nice to have you. We'd like to ask you a few questions, of course, because we're interested in promoting your new book, which actually is The Keepers, but it's now translated into Chinese. And one of the questions everybody's been asking is, you have said, we survive as a species. We do survive. We do go forward. Can you clarify that? Because a lot of people think, well, some of us die. People are worried.
Well, I've been advised as such throughout these abduction experiences and, of course, in the latter years to give you a response to this question. The human species, according to the Greys, primarily, go through cycles. And they have been going through the same cycle for untold millions upon millions upon millions of years. We evolve to the point where our technology becomes, we develop somewhat of a superior technology, about where we are now, instead of just cave dwellers, so to speak. The population goes from maybe many tens or hundreds of thousands to the millions and into the billions. And according to them, it's a cycle that can be very much predicted. We get to a point where we have the technology, we get to the point where we have the population, and we can either move to evolve or self-destruct. And according to them, the human species has chosen to self-destruct over and over again. And when the human race gets to this point where they can go one way or another, it could be that there's no chance of pulling us to the point of evolving, and that's where we go. Or there may be somewhat of a chance because there's a bit of a balance, and we can get to the point of evolving. So according to them, they're claiming that we are right at the cusp of that point right now. I think if you look within yourself, you pretty much can see that's pretty much so. Where will we be in 100 years from now, or where would we be in 200 years from now? So we can, each one of us can look within ourselves and examine within ourselves, and you may be pessimistic or you may be negative, depending on where you're at. So we're right on the line. So since this is a characteristic or a cycle that happens over and over and over again, we're approaching that same point right now. Relative to when I say some of us have survived, I get the impression that we're going to get to a point where it's so close, but we will lean towards self-destruction. And when I say some survive, because I know from personal interaction that I've seen, I've interacted with near future human beings and future, way like thousands of years future human beings. So it tells me that, at least from my point of view, that some of us has made it. And I'll elaborate a little bit more on this. The primary purpose of interaction and abductions and things of this nature is, so since we're such at the scales can be tipped one way or another, they're pushing us towards evolving, and that's an important thing. But I think if the push wasn't there, or we weren't made aware of it, perhaps we go the other way. It's not, and that's a scary notion. That's not a pleasant notion. So I can say that I have interacted with people from the future, so I feel sure that, you know, some of us survive it at least. So I can at least say some of us survive it, right?
So it's likely there will be some kind of thinning out of population through our own stupidity.
I think that's a natural, again, it's a natural cycle that we go through. And again, judging from what I've seen a few near future and far future human beings in my interactions with this to tell me at least a few of us do survive. What percentage, I don't know.
No. And you did describe when they look down at the planet, they see this as a hornet's nest. I mean, I can understand Iran, Iraq, everybody fighting. If they view this planet as a hornet's nest, why do they choose to talk to the military as opposed to the people or the UN?
Well, I think they took 40, 60 years ago in that time frame, I think they took a very wise course.
Okay.
They followed proper protocol, meaning that they contacted world leaders, global leaders, movers and shakers, heads of state, the military, and to express that they would like to see the human species evolve so we can join, quote unquote, so to speak, I shouldn't say quote, but join the galactic neighborhood. So they followed proper protocol by starting with the leaders of the world. That could be people that are in black ops, secret governments, top secret military individuals and such, and put this plan together, and they agreed. And for us to evolve to get to a point where we can join the galactic neighborhood. And according to them, they're claiming that these treaties have been broken. So that was the first step. And now there's these abductions, mass abductions. I believe there's easily millions upon millions upon millions of people around the world that have been abducted, and perhaps it might even be 1 billion or more. Most of the memory is taken away, but it will come to a certain point where you'll know who you are in these abduction scenarios so we can move forward. So it's more or less a grassroots effort because we back out of the treaties and agreements that bring us along, and now they're contacting, so to speak, the average person.
Right.
The average global resident.
I see. And coming to the spirituality of the extraterrestrials, in your experience, I mean, are they service to self? Are they service to others? Without saying good or bad. Bearing in mind they're abducting, there's genetic experiments going on, there's cloning. I mean, you yourself have a hybrid child. I mean, how do you see this in terms of the spirituality?
Okay, well, let's keep things in this perspective, and I like to use this. If all their agendas were, let's say, 360 degrees, I'm privy to 1 to 3 degrees of these agendas, and that's the scope in which I can speak, and that's where my experience comes from. As far as hybrids are concerned, what I know to be so with them is the fact that they've created a human being, a more evolved human being or a hybrid human being as an insurance policy, meaning that if, again, we self-destruct, they'll inhabit this planet with a human being that's a bit more intelligent, a bit less emotional, and more environmentally concerned. And so that's not something that they're chomping at the bit to release on our planet. But if we fail and we don't survive this, or very few of us survive it, then that's what they would like to inhabit next. They have their own agendas, and the majority of them are unseen and not understood. So to speak, invisible agendas going on our planet and elsewhere in the universe, the galaxy and the universe. Ongoing projects that they're doing, and these agendas are something for self, for them. But at the same time, the spiritual aspect would be they would like to see the human species evolve so we may join the galactic neighborhood. And we're talking about here from the good old loving Mother Earth.
So when we get into the galactic neighborhood and when we evolve and we are mutually respected, will they still be taking our genetic material?
Well, I think what you're going to find is that once we get to a point, and I call it we are, once we get to the point that we are, we're not going to be so much concerned with those things, and they're not going to be so much concerned with us and those things, because we've evolved to a point where we'll have our place in the galactic neighborhood, where we would not be subject to these things no longer.